welcome back to PTSD While Black. It's Quinn. This week, I want to focus on my trauma around work. Um, Before my car accident, or when I had my car accident in 2015, I was doing physical therapy and going to the doctor afterwards. It was like in between, I was doing acting and then doing physical therapy. Um, but then it was like, okay, you need to just get a desk job to try to take care of the household. And a friend hooked me up with a job at a automobile parts company. The thing is, I had to take the freeway to get there. I didn't realize how bad my PTSD was from the car accident. And I couldn't figure out why by the time I got to work, I was always on edge and like always worried that something's going to go wrong, some kind of failure is going to happen. But now I know, Quinn, you were traumatized because you're driving with other people and you haven't really healed around the trauma from the car accident. And I did go to therapy after the car accident because I was just too afraid to drive in town for quite a while. Um, but this job, the challenge that I had was because I was always so triggered and on alert that I could not connect with people in genuine, meaningful ways. I was always waiting for things to go wrong or to make a mistake. And I remember they were having to accommodate me as well because my back was badly injured, and so I had to have a sit to stand desk, and I had to have time out to go to the doctor, to go to physical therapy and things like that as well. Um, it's probably not something that they were looking forward to, even though I had disclosed before they hired me that I was in a car accident, and that for the most part, I was pretty good until, driving consistently on the freeway to this particular job, um, was a little challenging, but actually, I prefer to drive on the freeway now more than surface streets because it's like, pew, one shot. Um, but anyway, we I got laid off from the job because they had to keep making accommodations because I was instructed by my physical therapist and my doctor that I could only hold my head in a certain position for a limited amount of time, that I needed all these things to help me to work. Um, and I was still having very severe pain. And now with the concussion, I've learned so much that the chronic pain also adds to the kind of the feeling of fear, paranoia, feeling that things aren't quite right. Um, and so I really was not in any shape to be on the job. And so they laid me off. And I felt so inadequate after that. And it was like compounding the trauma of the car accident. Now we have added the challenge of driving. We have the resenting the body because of the pain it's in. And I actually ended up injuring my shoulder more doing physical therapy because I was like trying to like, let's get well so I can work. um, so I tried to pretend that the pain wasn't there. I tried to pretend that I was normal instead of acknowledging, hey, this is what's going on. And it's okay to have needs. It's okay to need help. It's okay to ask for accommodation. And if someone cannot give that accommodation, then that just means that's not your place right now. I needed to focus on because I was still having to get like scans of my shoulder, my knee, my neck, my back. I was having to go in for MRIs and stuff like that. So it was very invasive, right? And I had such a hard time. My pride had such a hard time because I'm pretty much a workaholic. When I'm on a job, I want to be focused. I want to do a good job. I want to help my work environment to um, improve, to run smoothly. I want to make things easier for the people around me when I'm working somewhere. And here I am, a burden. And I really struggled with trying to be ready to go back to work and didn't realize that I was dealing with trauma, having to deal with the insurance company and the car accident. Um, just processing that out was a lot. There was a lot going on. And then we because I didn't have a job, we ended up having to and then my husband got laid off from his job. We ended up having to move to, Northern California to be with his parents. They're like, "You guys can both go back to school, while you're living here with us." And I was like, "Okay, new start." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to go back to college." And then I magically end up with a concussion before getting to enroll in school and then still trying to enroll in school. So what I'm aware of now is that I've been holding on to this feeling of being inadequate, this feeling of not being enough and not capable enough. Um, so car accident 2015, concussion 2016. I had a lot to heal from just physically because I mean, I went from acting and doing speech competitions and um trying to promote my hypnotherapy business to being like just shut down and not being able to trust the body that I was in. I'm glad now, even though it's taken 2016 to 2023, so that's it'll be 7 years in November to be where I am today. It's 6.5 years to be where I am today from the concussion. I'm grateful that I am able to walk a lot easier. My back pain only really bothers me mostly in the rainy months. So December to winter, winter time's really hard, and summertime's really hard for the concussion because I get migraines and I'm more likely to have the seizure-like episodes during the summer. And so it's being able to work around the conditions of the body that I'm in today. And so that's kind of the journey that I'm on. Um, I remember when we were trying to apply for disability, how hard it was just to fill out the paperwork because I was so confused trying to fill out paperwork and figure things out and being uh the emotions, dealing with the emotions as well of the shame of having been let go from a job. So it's been a process, and I haven't worked for someone else for quite a long time. I just do gigs as I can, or I volunteered. I When I first came here, I volunteered as a balloon artist with a summer school program, and that was great. So my balloon art has also been like the side thing that originally started from my father-in-law. Um, so I had a lot to overcome physically, emotionally, mentally, and that eventually takes a toll spiritually on a person. Um, and I'm glad that I did the work to heal as much as I could. I'm glad that I went to speech therapy. I'm glad that I did go to physical therapy. I'm glad that um, I had an action partner. If I wasn't working, the other thing that I was doing was working in a lot of recovery programs around the emotional inadequacies and things that came from the car accident. If I couldn't be on the job and actually working, then I was going to work on myself. So I spent a large amount of time working on myself. And when I was serving in 12-step groups, I would be treasurer. That was hard. Um, to do math. Math was really hard after the concussion. So I would serve as treasurer, I would serve as secretary, and I would open up meetings and set them up. I would volunteer as VP. Oh, in Toastmasters is VPPR, but basically I would help build websites for groups and things like that. When COVID hit, I helped to make everything go from physical to digital for a lot of groups and get them started on Zoom. So there was always an element of volunteering during that time as I was recovering and healing. And then after I did my step work in programs, and I love this, my sponsor in the Under Being program, I told him I was having trouble talking from the concussion, and I remember it was like 2017. He told me, he's like, "You need a sponsor again." I'm like, "But I can't talk." He's like, "You'll learn to if you sponsor." I was like, "Okay, I will sponsor." And I really had to learn to have the skills to honor my body as it was, to tell my sponsees, "Hey, I'm having a migraine. So today, can we just do a check in?" Or, "This is what I'm able to do with you." And I'm grateful for the women that I got to sponsor and to help them on their journeys of dealing with underbeing. And it's so funny because all these people, um, poets and people who worked for cities and doctors, I'm getting to help them, even though I'm somebody who has been severely limited. And I think that's just like the beauty of it all, was like being able to ask them, "Can you please be patient?" And I was holding space for Black women to be vulnerable as well. And them hearing me say, "Hey, I'm not having a good day," they also got invited to be able to slow down. So that was a beauty of the work. And I did that today's day that I was working with people, and it was, I just love Thursdays. I get help a lot with the people on Thursdays. Um, but anyway, I volunteered as the vice chair first of a World Service Committee, and then as I became chair of a World Service Committee with a brain injury while having seizures, while dealing with people who were bickering. And when people talk a lot, it's really hard for me, or when they talk really fast and a whole lot, it's really hard for me to follow. And so then I catch myself getting emotionally upset. And I'm trying to communicate this to people, that I can't be a safe person right now. I had to learn how to communicate. Um, this is what my boundaries are. These are what my limits are. And how to learn. Some people are willing to listen to boundaries and limits, and some people are not. But I learned how to communicate my boundaries and limits through that process. So there was always something that I was learning through doing service in all of these spaces. And what I'm looking at today, because of the gang stalking situation, the stress made it really hard to, like, I'm having to protect and secure things. So it's kind of hard to focus on trying to gig and get booked as a balloon artist. And there's also trauma around trying to get booked as a voice actress. I need to take classes, and I haven't honestly followed up on my classes that I need to take. And so financially, it's really challenging right now. And so I'm looking at, what I did is I used a tool from the 12 step groups, where step 4, you make an inventory of all of your resentments, your fears, and any romantic or close personal relationships. And so what I did is I just decided to list out all the fears I have about going back to work. Rational or irrational, just name all the fears. And then next, I'm going to name what part of my life it affects. And then what part of myself was I relying on? And just to take note of defects of character, and then just go talk it over with another person. But so that I can find out what are the boundaries that I need further, or what are my, in the workaholics program, they talk about your top and bottom lines. What are your top actions that you're willing to do that are closest to your goals, and what are the bottom line actions that lead into overworking or dysfunctional behavior, just so I can be more aware of myself. And I'm looking forward to this, because like I'm learning right now. I'm about 60% functional, like little more than 2.5 weeks out of the month. I'm pretty good. I'm just solid. I got this. Quinn's here. She's here in the body. So we were calculating it. So I want to contribute 30%. We are going to do a 30-70 split to the household. So I want to contribute 30% income in whatever way I possibly can to the household. So I'm looking at how can I get ready to go back to work, and also to set those appropriate boundaries. If somebody's looking for something that an able-bodied person can do, this is what I can do up to this limit, and then here's the help that I'm going to need in the middle. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on around my issues with returning to work. Um, yeah, because before all of this and before the traumatizing job that I did work for another company, I have so many job trauma. There's a lot of traumas on jobs as well. Let me just say that, period. But what my motivation for leaving a job in the past was because I wanted more pay or more responsibility. That was my main reason for leaving a job in the past. And then just like as traumatic events started happening in my life, I noticed that there's a lot more inadequacy, a lot more fear, and basically that's me acting in a way that would invite someone to say you're not a good fit. Um, and so I really have to really take a look at it. Um, and how can I get to who I was before the major traumatic events? So really, let's try to get to who I was before 2008, 15 years ago, because that's when the rape was. That's when things really, really started going downhill for me. Um, so I'm working on that. I'm always working on something. And I think being a work in progress, um, I'm okay with it. It's beautiful to be a work in progress, that I'm here to focus on me and how can I do better? How can I shift and how can I change? And to be okay with what opportunities become available as a result of being a work in progress. So, yeah, that's what I'm focusing on this week is just naming all of the fears, all of them, um, and looking at how else, what other ways do I get to respond to these fears instead of in dysfunctional or avoiding or controlling ways. Right. So that's where I am today. Oh my gosh. I'm glad we can finally get to this trauma versus all the other traumas that have been popping up. Yay! Finally. All right. Till next time. Peace.